you know.
Nearby could be a clue they came to the U.S.
So, yeah, that's not what they called themselves. Just because we call it that doesn't mean anything. Hello, everyone.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Hello, everyone,
Yeah,
and welcome to Archeo Viking. Today is another one of my archaeology debunk videos. There's only a few of them, but this one is special because I have another fellow archaeology YouTuber coming on to join me, Nathaniel Fossen. His channel, I believe, is just Nathaniel Fossen. And I actually got the idea for this episode from his channel, where he posted one of a couple of videos where he was debunking the History Channel quote unquote documentary series by Scott Wolters involving supposedly the Minoans coming to the Great Lakes to steal copper, while completely ignoring any of the other archaeology involving the Great Lakes copper culture that was actually Native American in here. So seeing that, I got the idea. It's like, well, let's look at the first episode, which I actually have stakes in because it's in Georgia and involves the Mississippian culture. And so that's why we are here. Is we're going to take a look at the first episode of Mississippian culture. Now, Nathaniel, you wanted to say something real quick?
Yeah, I don't mess with Scott Wolter videos completely sober. So
That's
here's what I'm proposing. Anytime they use the phrase mainstream archaeology, you drink.
Yeah.
Anytime they do this thing looks like this thing, therefore they're the same thing.
Yep.
We take a drink. Do you have any other rules that you'd like to propose?
No, I think that's it.
If we knew we were doing this, I wouldn't have grabbed hot drink. I would have grabbed something a little stronger.
Yeah,
you don't have to be drinking alcohol. You just have to be drinking something.
No, I'm just gonna drink. Okay. I'm gonna drink my water bottle. I don't drink anymore, but for the most part. So, all right. So let's begin. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Yeah. I want to pause it here for a second. I love how it's always the government is trying to keep people from archaeological sites almost immediately.
Oh yeah. Oh, matched up with the glitchy visual effects. Yeah.
It was 2011. It was a different time.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, I watched this when this came out. I don't think I've watched it since for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
No, not the Sharpie.
Hello, this is John.
John, this is Scott Wolter.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Well, not that great. I just came from the site, and the government won't let me in. Bullshit.
I'd be happy to show you the videos from Track Rock that I shot last year.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to get us to. So, notice how he said the government wouldn't let him on to Track Rock Gap, or the Track Rock. So, there's the thing. That's not actually true. Here's the Google for the Track Rock site. Or can you see that?
What? Oh wait, can you just go into Google Maps for a second? Is that an access road?
Yes, there's an access road. Yeah. So, yeah, you can actually go to Track Rock Petroglyph site. And the thing is I was going to go back.
And oh my god, that's a public hiking trail. That's what the dotted green is.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's you can go and visit this, and he's claiming that the government, air quotes, is there preventing people from going and seeing it. And of course, that's not true. That wasn't true then. That isn't true now. With one exception, there was a point in time when you were not allowed to go there, and that's because some jackasses went onto the Track Rock site and vandalized the petroglyphs there, and so they had it blocked off while they were repairing the petroglyphs. But you know when that happened? 2021, not 2012. So so right off the bat, he's lying.
As he always does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Also-
not lying, it's TV magic.
Yeah, it's TV magic.
I mean, then again, History Channel. I mean, what are we gonna?
So now we're gonna go to his yeah.
It wasn't even History Channel, it was H2.
Yeah, H2.
Oh, it was. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And then so this is his little office here. And they're
Dying to see this video
Yeah,
here.
I'm glad to show it to you.
Yeah.
It looks entirely too
I
much
gotta
like
tell ya.
NCIS.
The
yeah.
government wouldn't let me in. How the hell did you get in?
Oh my
Also
God, you're right.
also pause. Like Nathaniel here has already talked about a couple of times in his videos. There's no fucking such thing as a forensic geologist.
Okay, I have to backtrack on that because I
Oh.
was a little bit wrong about
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
He has a geology degree.
Yeah, he has a bachelor's.
He spent most of his career working in concrete and identifying when like production failures cause concrete buildings to collapse. And so when 9/11 happened, he was on the investigative team to look into the geologic aspect of the concrete at the Twin Towers, which was a forensic investigation. So technically he was a forensic investigator in his capacity as a geologist, making him a forensic geologist.
Okay.
There is also a very small like subfield within forensics of forensic applications of geology, like sedimentation and shit like that.
Okay.
It does kind of exist, but his invoking that as a source of any kind of like expertise or authority on this subject is bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
No,
and the thing-
I have friends who are geologists, and they study nothing like we do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also he's lying. He's lied about where he got his master's degree because people have like went to like called and checked the records at the university that he claims to have gotten his master's degree from, and they have no record of him going there. So that's hilarious too.
I did not know that.
Yes. But anyways,
Take these videos.
Well, I had a permit back in 2011 and spent a day at the site. It's a huge site. Well, I got clips of a number of rock walls that form terraces going up this mountain slope.
I got one of those in my backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like pause that real quick.
yeah.
Now you said over.
I got one
Yeah.
of those in my backyard.
I
My dad
know.
and my grandfather built it.
Yeah,
Also-
these kinds of dry stone walls are found all over. I have documented them in
me too.
southern Appalachia. They're
Me too.
everywhere.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I live in New England. You can't walk in the woods without tripping on them.
Also, this is
Yeah.
this is something I want to address here: terracing, Mayan agricultural practice, and that's true. That is something that the Mayans practiced.
So
And
do
st-
historic farmers.
yes.
And
Well, that's
yeah.
actually what I wanted to talk about here. Where's the rice fields? Oh, there we go. You know who else practices agricultural terracing? People in fucking China with rice terraces.
It's
Right
also
here.
done down in Peru, like
In
terracing.
Peru.
Yeah, and later the Romans did it
Yeah.
as an augmentation of their building practices later in the imperial period.
So yeah, exactly. And also this is Japan, but you know, there's also like in China and everything else, and it's just like so okay, just because somebody uses fucking terracing doesn't mean the Maya, as it says here in this picture, were here. That's like I have a computer.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a Mayan agricultural practice. It's also
Yeah.
a practice
Yeah.
of people in the 1800s.
Hundreds, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well, yeah.
it's just a common practice. I mean, similar to like what people say with the pyramids, it's just the best way to stack rocks. This
Yeah.
is the best way to keep the hill from disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is my big thing is like saying that this is agricultural terracing, therefore the Maya are here is the equivalent to me sitting here at this computer saying this is a computer exists here, therefore Nathaniel or Ian were sitting here in this house. Like that doesn't mean any fucking thing. We all have computers, but we're all in very different spots right now. You know, so yeah. anyways, just
100?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, you walk along, all of a sudden there's a rock wall and then a relatively flat area. Now, this is a shot from up at the upper elevation. See how nicely constructed that wall is? And then there were some water features.
That wall looks like ass.
yeah, I was about to say. nicely
honestly,
constructed.
I've seen better walls.
Yeah, that was my whole thing. Nicely constructed. Like, huh?
I mean, I
That's-
guess you can just say anything.
Yeah.
That's just a pretty average tri-stone wall.
Yeah.
Control water.
Yeah.
And there was some rock cairns up there, some type of ceremonial structures, and I even found a rectangle.
Yes, because you know what? Ceremonial structures existed in the Archaic period, the Woodland period, and the fucking Mississippian period.
Regular stone foundation.
For a structure of some type? Pyramids, perhaps? Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely
So we have
pyramids.
rock formations.
Yeah.
Extensive terraces to control water.
That's a very small pyramid. It's a very
Is it big?
curvilinear
You can
pyramid.
get lost up there. The only direction that you would know to get out is to go down.
Go down.
I
Okay.
tell you, if
Even
you wanna
though
know
it's a
more about
trail
this,
with
and
it
this
is
is how
marked.
I found out about the site. You need to contact Richard Thornton.
You get lost. You could get lost on it, and you only have to go down to get out. It's like, but it's a trail. It's like it's on the Chattahoochee National Forest. They have the trail marked. You fucking idiot. You know.
Yeah, it's not. I have no doubt there are like signs and painted marks on the trees, like there are
Yeah.
on almost every trail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Native American architect down in Georgia, and he's spent a decade.
And I'll address
studying
this in a
this.
Does he
Yeah.
think there could be a Maya Georgia connection at this site?
Yeah, and that's what.
$30 says his grandma
I'll tell
was
you
a
what, John,
Cherokee
if the Mayans
princess.
came
I've
to
actually
Georgia
got that. So
connection,
Well, it's, I mean, it's not.
so this is a white guy, not Native American. Now, let me preface this. This does not mean all Native Americans look, exactly alike. And yes, there are people who are pale complexion who are Native American. I have met them.
I know
I'm sure-
many.
Yeah, I know many.
Yeah, my girlfriend's like that, and she's mixed race.
Yeah, that being said, so for one thing, Richard Thornton, right off the bat, they said architect, not archaeologist, yet this documentary claims that he is one of the leading experts of Indians in Georgia, which is not true at all. But because he's an architect, not a fucking archaeologist or a historian or an ethnologist or anything like that. Two, so
The only thing they have in common is they start with the letter A.
the quote unquote Native American tribe that he is part of is the Perdido Bay Creek tribe. Well, if we come over here to this little tab that I've got right here, this is, and now admittedly this is Wikipedia, but this is not an academic search, so it's still valid. This is a list of tribal organizations that self-identify, i.e., are not recognized by state or federal organizations as Native American tribes. And if we scroll down to Florida here, look at that. The Perdido Bay tribe of Lower Muskogee Creeks is an unrecognized Native American nation. It is not federally nor state recognized. It is probably, like Nathaniel said, a bunch of guys who are like, my great grandmother was Muskogee Creek or some shit like that. You know.
I'd have to know more about that one because I know, like up here, like the Abenaki tribe is not registered because in the state of New Hampshire they have less than 2,000 people.
They're probably still federally recognized.
No, they're not.
Are they
They're
state
recognized.
recognized?
They're recognized in Quebec, but not in New Hampshire.
Okay, then that's good. If they're recognized at least by some federal entity, Quebec or the United States, then they are legitimately Native American. Because the thing is, you have to do like have a lot of documentation and prove a lot of things to be recognized. If you don't have any of that, you're you can claim you're Native American all you want, but if you don't have any of the fucking documentation, it's just jacking shit at that point. So
Well, also, like, were you actually raised in an indigenous community or not?
yeah, in that culture as well. Yeah. So it's just,
a theory, it's a fact. The Mayas are one of the Mexican Native American ethnic groups that became the Creek Indians.
What?
What? Yes. Yep.
What are some of the
That was-
things that to you provide evidence of this assimilation, really, or this coming together here in Georgia from Mexico?
We have the architecture, we have the cultural traditions, the art are very similar.
Okay.
Approximately a third to a
I don't know. Would you think that counts, Nathaniel? You said this looks like something, therefore.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that one. But there's a lot to talk about with that. Like, first off, we're dealing with a continental tradition of art that's,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is going to
Mhm.
argue that there was absolutely no contact between Mesoamerica and the American Southeast. Yeah.
Actually, no.
They-
Well, and
Like, I'm sure they knew about each other. The Gulf of Mexico is very traversable. They can
Yeah.
communicate with each other.
well,
But trying to say that because they have similar art to each other, that's like saying that, oh, we've got this Parthenon in Nashville that mimics the Parthenon in Greece. Therefore, the Nashville peak culture were all a bunch of Greek immigrants.
Yeah,
Like, that makes
well-
no sense at all.
for example, the Middle Woodland culture, the Middle Woodland Hopewell culture had trade and ceremonial networks that expanded the entire goddamn continent, all the way to to Yellowstone and to the Gulf of Mexico.
So actually, I kind of take just a little bit of issue with the Obsidian source going there. I don't know
Okay.
if it's actually been, I don't know if it has actually been like PXRF tested or not.
And that's a good point. Yeah.
To that, I would just point out that it would be just as easy to get obsidian from Mexico up the Gulf, up the Mississippi, and then up the Ohio River as
Yeah.
it would be to drag obsidian 100 and fuck miles from
Yeah.
Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah, and that's fair,
Yeah.
and that's fair, but that's still the statement stands. Like, this was, whether it's to Yellowstone or to Mexico, the Hopewell culture had a wide breadth of interaction. Now, let me find my thing before I switch over share the screen here to where I was going to share it. So I have a lot of things pulled up pertaining to this shit. Here we go. Stop sharing and I'll switch screens here temporarily. So yeah, we and not even just the Southeast, we have a lot of proof of interaction between Mesoamerica and, for example, the Southwest. We see it with the Mogollon culture in the Southwest that talks about, their connection with Mesoamerican cultures, especially like the Tlaloc, and I butchered that, but the Mesoamerican rain deity Tlaloc,
It's
and then
Tlaloc.
Tlaloc. Thank you.
Yep, beat
Yeah,
me to it.
yeah, Tlaloc. And then you also, the prehistoric. This article right here: prehistoric drug trade, widespread consumption of cacao in ancestral Puebloan and Hohokam communities. Where'd they get that cacao? They traded the cacao with Mesoamerica because that's where cacao is from, and so we have that connection. And then, and then this paper says essentially the same thing. So it's like we have this evidence, like we know this existed. We're not, them denying, claiming that we're denying this happened is horseshit. We're just saying that the Maya were not the Muscogee nation.
Yeah, it's the whole pots equal people debate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're going back
exactly.
with like fucking Gustav Kostner there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
half of the words in the Itzati Creek language are either Maya or Totonac.
Okay, linguistics.
Linguistics.
So what about archaeoastronomy? They like
I
the
want a
Mayans,
citation on that.
amazing structures
know,
that
yeah.
align with the sun,
Yeah.
the moon, the planet, for practical and religious
Wait,
reasons.
hell, he didn't even
Is any of
say
that going on around here?
examples or anything.
Yes, very much so.
Okay,
That's
so
that's
you
what
do.
area I'm a city planner, so yeah, I'm pretty strong at it, so I can help.
Okay, here's where I need to jump back in. So, yeah, archaeoastronomy, yes, there is evidence of building buildings based off of the off of like astronomical areas and things like that.
Solar alignments,
Yeah, exactly.
Cahokia has lunar alignments at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
That
thing.
but that they far predate the Mississippian era. For example, this is a chapter from actually a book I have right beside me, right here, called Early Middle Woodland Landscapes in the Southeast.
Is that the
and-
Alice Wright book?
Yes, the Alice Wright book.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is a chapter authored by Scott Keith about a middle woodland Hopewellian mound site in North Georgia known as Leek. It would have been like the North Georgia equivalent of Kolomoki.
I used to work with Scott also. He was a New
Yeah.
South guy for
Yeah,
years.
exactly. Yeah, and he talks about this in here, the earthworks, and I believe solar alignments in here, or astronomical alignments within this paper. Let me see if I can find them here. He may have done that in a different paper, but the point is they have that within this area. They talk about these astronomical alignments, and it's discussed at length by archaeologists like Scott Keith. So it's just like, and they predate the Mississippian period, which is the big issue.
Well, and like going back even further than that,
Yeah.
Poverty Point has astronomical alignments.
Thank you.
Pinson Mound has
Thank you.
astronomical alignments.
Yes,
They-
exactly.
most of them will have at least like an equinox or a solstice alignment somehow built into the grammar of the architecture.
Yes, and
Thanks.
these things are talked at in length, like in this book here about Poverty Point. Like,
Is
these
that the
are
John
not-
Gibson? Yeah.
Yep, John Gibson. Yeah, because like these are things that are fucking discussed by archaeologists and people
Extensively.
extensively.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally writing entire books on it. That I just showed you 2 books just in the first 5 seconds. So
Oh yeah, and it's not even isolated to indigenous cultures either.
No.
I immediately think of a paper by Mike Parker Pearson talking
Yeah.
about the alignment of domestic architecture in Iron Age Britain.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
And I don't remember
you
us
have
talking
any of
about
the-
any of it up at Orkney, but I'm sure that there's some kind of astronomical something at Orkney also.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, Stonehenge. Fucking Stonehenge.
What's Stonehenge?
Also, I'm thinking about
I'm not kidding. What is
Tomb-
Stonehenge?
Stonehenge. In
Is that
England?
like the Woodhenge at Cahokia?
No, Stonehenge, the stone circle.
You can't
in
just
England.
keep saying it and expect me to know what you're talking about.
You've okay? Let me pull it up. I guess.
Stonehenge in Salisbury Plain.
Ugh,
Uh,
I thought you would know what
But-
Stonehenge was. Okay.
Never heard of it.
biting my tongue. I'm the Europe specialist.
This.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rock circle. Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Rock circle. Yeah.
yeah,
It's-
with celestial alignments to various solstices and equinoxes and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
yeah, I was gonna throw out stuff like Maze Howe in Orkney.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You also have West Kent Longborough. You have Newgrange, the Brunaboyne sites in Ireland. Yeah, the list goes on.
Yeah. Exactly.
At La Crue also.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know La Crue. It's kind of like a smaller contemporaneous site with Newgrange, but I used to work with a guy who, when he was in college,
Oh no,
would-
now that yeah.
he would
Oh,
go.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. He would. He told me that he was in college. He and his friends would go to the cow pastures, pick psilocybin mushrooms, sleep in the monument, and then be tripping while the sun rose and lit up the back.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
The
Oh,
yeah.
rock art stela in the back of the monument.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That it is, without any lights, those things get like pitch black inside.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
trippy.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
I have lots of
Architecture?
I have drawings and photographs. Yes.
Is that what they don't want me to see?
I don't know what they done. Why? It's a massive site. What to keep in mind? This place is a half-mile square at least. It's a town.
Okay.
Has over 300 stone structures. It's like nothing else.
Oh my.
God damn it!
Ooh, space.
Awkward cut.
You're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Else in America, really. It's been radiocarbon dated to at least 1000 AD.
What do the archaeologists think about this?
Academic source.
I thought the archaeological community
Please.
would go gaga. You know, they'd be fighting over the chance to be the one to be the great discovery of all their lives. Would you believe that some professors who had never seen this track rock site, they formed a political action group?
So a site that is a like national historic site in the Chattahoochee Forest has never been visited by archaeologists, supposedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, yeah.
To oppose anything discussion of the track rock site and it being Mayan. Now, why? I don't know, because they're like 600 miles away.
So you're asking me if I would believe that the academic community might try to shut down an investigation like this? Yes, I would.
Conspiracy.
Pal,
Conspiracy
I've lived
thing,
it, okay?
yeah.
I was hired to investigate an artifact called the Kensington Rune Stone.
Yes, yes. I've heard
Oh,
about
God,
Of course you
When I
were.
came out with these results,
Like, never mind that specialists in rune, like the Old Norse language, like Jackson Crawford, came out
I
and
love
said,
that
no.
video so much.
They were like, no, this is not. Yeah,
It's
Jeez.
18th century Swedish. What are you talking about?
and it
Yeah.
really puzzled me at
Umlauts.
first,
yeah.
and then it pissed me off. Well, I've spent the last 12 years investigating these historical mysteries, and when you tell me
Also, I love how the guy, like Richard Thornton, like is supposedly like, and I'm not saying archaeologists are rich by any means, but like is supposedly like such a great expert, and he lives in a fucking trailer in the middle of nowhere.
I mean,
you
I'm
know?
not here to be like make classist allegations, but I am saying if you're an architect and your house is
Yeah.
architecturally questionable, maybe
Yeah.
you're not a good architect.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I'm right now, I'm in a house in a small 3-bedroom house that I'm renting. And I'm an archaeologist. I by no means have any fucking room to talk. But if you're claiming you're like one of the world's leading experts in something, and you live in a fucking trailer in the middle of nowhere that looks like it's about to fall apart, I've got questions.
that
Unless,
there's pushback
unless he's
from
going for the
professional
kooky sci-fi
or the
science
academic
whistleblower
community,
vibe.
Yeah.
I'm interested. That's
Yeah.
a sure sign that there's probably something going on here.
Jesus fucking Christ.
These are some of John's videos. You can see the rocks,
That's a ruin of a.
Those certainly are
like
rocks.
an
Yeah.
offering altar with a little hole here.
I was thinking.
Well, I
that
guess
also-
I have an altar in my backyard.
Yeah, or shocker, some of the rocks got removed by animals, bioturbation,
Or
etc.
they fall out.
Or they fall out.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Oh, those things get wobbly as hell if they're not.
clay
Yeah.
and then plastered
Yeah.
with lime stucco.
You know, Richard,
Where?
I have to say, when I
Where's
look
the
at
lime
something like
stucco?
this,
It's not there.
I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I'd be
Neither are
seeing these
we.
Yeah.
beautifully clean.
I've excavated mortared
stones
stone
and big
before. That's
temples.
just
That's what
moss.
you think of when you
Yeah.
think of people like the Maya. I mean,
Right.
why don't we have that here?
This is what most Maya sites look like before the archaeologists
No,
go
it's
work
not.
and architects like me restore the ruins.
Okay, so yes,
I
Maya
wish I
sites,
had something a little stronger right now.
Maya sites are covered in jungle and such, but they don't
They don't magically go from uncut stone to cut stone.
stone. Yeah.
Hey,
thank you.
yeah.
God damn.
That's what they
Little
look.
do you know, stonemasons just
Great
tap the
city.
rocks and all the
Yeah.
sides fall out from perfect facing.
Like, I'm not going to use the
What
R
does this
word to
site look
describe this, but I'm fucking thinking it.
Yeah, I'm thinking it.
Can
Yeah.
you give me a visual?
This
I
is
wish
a
you hadn't
computer
said that.
virtual reality model.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some elevation here. It'd be nice.
Yeah, my mind gears are turning.
topographic lines, maybe.
Things built on a hill must be mine. Yeah.
Well, they've clearly built
Well, now I
much
have a
parachute.
couple of maps.
I better
Yeah.
drink my own
This
piss.
is a 3D model, but
Yeah.
if you'd like to see the actual elevations.
I would like to see that.
You know why hills are also popular? They
Yeah.
don't
See,
freaking flood.
that's terraced, just like the five-sided mound,
So this
and
is-
it's facing the sunset of the winter solstice.
These astronomically aligned structures, the whole village, the way they're oriented, is very important.
There are many monuments, perhaps 50 stone cairns, that seem to be markers having to do with astronomy.
So what is this?
That's one of the things when I knew is it's a Maya. When I saw that, I said, oh my gosh. Actually, I said
What
some
is
other
it?
things, but I can't say.
Tell me
It is
what
a
it
device
Oh my god, there's a freshwater source.
from
Yeah.
the spring and to drop the water to the appropriate terrace. It's a control device for distributing water.
So Ian, what is one of the things Romans are particularly well known for involving water?
Designing architecture made to trap water. I've literally dug in essentially a Roman water tank, and it basically turns to soup even after 2,000 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, you know what other culture in North America is well known for their water irrigation? The fucking Hohokam. Archaeologists have
It-
excavated irrigation canals.
If
Oh.
you grow
Yeah.
plants next to a water source
Yeah.
that floods,
Yeah,
you
and
learn
look,
how to control the water.
here's a nice little piece of art showing how they did that.
I don't
Here's
know if you've
another
seen
one.
the Ancient Americas video about the Hohokam, but it's really good.
It is good. Yeah, it is. But like here it is. And oh look, here's a map showing all of the different irrigation canals from the Hohokam that they mapped.
And it's not like similar methods haven't been used cross-culturally for literally
For-
millennia.
It's almost
Yeah.
like water flows downhill, and somehow you've got to do something about that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
What I'm
Okay.
trying to experiment with here is
Yeah.
why did they do it? Why did
Yeah.
they build the terraces? I am mimicking the environmental situation at Track.
Erosion control.
Civilization grew
Erosion
these
control.
crops on terraces.
So do you think what we have at Track Rock is connected to the Mayans somehow?
Yes, there's a direct connection.
Okay, why would they not let me in to see this? I mean, it's just terracing. It
Yeah,
leads me
that's
to
a good
believe that
question.
there's more going
why
on.
would a public trail in a publicly accessible state park be guarded heavily by the U.S. government?
I wonder how many times they had to cut the filming for a guy with a hiking backpack and the
Yeah.
chicken hills coming through, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
On here. Do you think there's a conspiracy maybe going on?
There's
here?
something fishy going on up there.
I'm thinking there's something fishy too, but I'll tell you what. If they won't let me hike in, maybe I'll fly in. You ever heard of
You're
lottery?
already standing there.
Well, here's the other thing: you've got to get a permit to run the
Dude,
lidar.
LiDAR, yeah. So again, if the government is guarding it, why would they allow him to perform LiDAR?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like air traffic control is a thing. Like,
Yeah, is a thing. You have to
Yeah.
in order to like get access to one of these planes at any of the number of small plane, airports within Georgia, you have to like register and get all these other things. It's just I'm not going to show the LiDAR because y'all have already seen the overhead images and all that bullshit,
So this is a World of Warcraft hardcore randomizer.
Somebody
It's
needs
really
the memo.
random, and
Yeah.
you only get one life.
Somebody needs never mind, I'm not going to say that because YouTube might demonetize me
What?
for what
What were we
I want
talking
to
about? I saw nothing.
No, I was going to say something like disparaging a certain website organization that I don't want to do right now.
Oh,
Yeah. So we'll
I
skip
remember
that.
nothing. My lips are sealed.
Oh yeah, here we go. Here's one.
Mayan connection to Georgia. If the Mayans did come here, I wonder if it's connected to their prophecy. The Mayan civilization began in 2000 BC and started to collapse around 750 AD when they began to abandon their cities en masse. They had to go somewhere, and this stone near
Okay, so this brings me to another thing. The fucking Maya people still exist in Mesoamerica. This is a picture of them from the modern day. They still exist. Yes, they abandoned their cities, and for one thing, they didn't because Chichen Itza and other cities were actually around when the Spaniards came and eventually began their conquest. But
Yeah.
the Maya people still fucking exist.
We call that a
Oh, yeah.
demographic reorganization. Like they
Yeah.
just live in, it's the same people living in different spots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also,
But
I want to
yeah,
address.
I mean, what's the guy in England who has DNA from Cheddar Man? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, also, I want to address something. So, yes, this is Wikipedia, but I do have the source this comes from just in one of the other tabs. Maya was not the term they called themselves back then, and this will come up later on, but it's important to address now. It's a modern collective term. And if we go to the source right here, if it'll load, in this preview that I pulled up on page 4, if we scroll down to an academic source that isn't Wikipedia that talks about the phrase Maya. So down, oh, what's that? We called the civilization Maya, although the term would not have meant anything to the Maya in Guatemala, in any way.
Oh my god, it's a geometric design.
I know, right?
Bring in dots. The Vikings
Yeah.
were here. This is a
Yeah.
giant Viking cone.
Yeah.
Soundtrack's kind of a banger, though,
got-
not gonna lie.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Harry
very,
Daniels,
I'm almost
Brazil?
thinking
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
National
Great
Treasure.
weather,
there.
a little wet today, but I gotta tell you, I think the rock looks better wet than if it was dry.
I agree.
What makes this rock specifically tied to the Maya-Georgia connection in your mind?
Both cultures, the Maya and the Creek Indians, used the exact same symbols to record the exact same event.
Well, you know, Gary, I clearly see these spiral
It
symbols
looks
here.
like something there for
They're not spirals.
In the middle, this one.
They're concentric
circles.
circles.
Those are
Yeah.
circles, bro.
Yeah.
These cupules along the top.
A series of
I
concentric
know what I
circles of
think
varying
is-
sizes. It's
My first impression
Why?
was that it's a star map. I believe that this records an event which happened in 536 AD.
oh my god, look,
It's
I
a
can do it
phenomenal
too. It's ripples in a
hypothesis.
pot.
That's actually
would
tested.
explain why they went
Yeah.
through the effort to carve this into this boulder. This was no
Maybe.
easy task.
Well, no shit, it was no
wasn't, and
easy task.
I have to say, Gary, that I agree with you. I'm pretty.
No shit, it was no easy task. Oh my god. And
Also,
why
this
go-
Gary, I don't know why, but something about him makes me want to stuff him into a locker.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and it's just like, oh, why would they? Why would they go through the trouble to carve this? I don't know, art, and sure, maybe there is some ceremonial significance,
And I'm sure there's
yeah.
storytelling involved with whatever this thing was carved
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's always the possibility, yeah, that it's just for decoration to emphasize an already important feature, but it's really kind of hard to prove that scientifically. That can just be a, hey, it's possible sort of
yeah,
thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
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 convinced this is a star map as well. It's an interesting connection
looking
with
at it
the
for 5
with
seconds.
the impact and the symbols tying the creek with the Maya. I think that's plausible.
How about this? Try to match any of the circles with any,
Actual stars.
actual stars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But this might not be the only geologic clue that makes a connection.
Stars
That's
are
not a
geologic.
geologic clue at all.
Now, Maya
Yeah.
blue was a pigment that the Maya used in
There we go.
minerals, and it lasts a very long time without fading.
And I think I understand the reason for that. Maya blue is a very interesting combination of a clay mineral called palygorskite that they mix with an indigo pigment made from an anil plant. And there's
Can I say
lots of
something real quick?
palygorskite in Georgia, but really.
Okay, so this brings me to something else I really wanted to
Can I
address.
say something real quick, please?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's a general rule of thumb that pigments made of minerals decay slower than pigments made of organic material.
Yeah.
This is not a thing unique to Maya blue.
Yeah. Well, and hang on. So he says, "Oh, it's abundant in Georgia." It's like, fine, it is. I'm sure it is. That being said, this is something that archaeologists have studied and wrote on extensively. This is an article from 2005, 7 years before this documentary came out, from the journal Ancient Mesoamerica, Volume 16, that talks about the possible pre-Columbian. Now we go by pre-contact. The possible pre-Columbian / pre-contact sources for Maya blue and palygorskite. However, there's another thing. They actually found even better evidence just in the same fucking year that this documentary came out, titled, in this journal here, titled "First Direct Evidence of Pre-Columbian Source of Palygorskite for Maya Blue." And they are, as you can see here on this map, what does that look like? Is that Georgia? Is that the state of Georgia there? No. Like, the
That'd be
same.
the dang old Yucatan Peninsula.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It seems like, it would be a whole lot easier to go to sources that are right in your backyard than go up an entire continent or go across an entire ocean just to get to it.
Yeah, you'd think, but
Yeah.
also the Phoenicians obviously sailed to Michigan to get copper, so
Yeah.
dumber
yeah.
things have been done.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's- yeah.
even though mineralogically that copper goes to Cyprus.
I've beaten that dead horse enough. I can't beat it anymore.
Yeah.
I know, I was just
Exactly.
saying that one thing just to get it out of my system.
It needs to be said.
Well,
If somebody
yeah,
didn't say it, it was going to bother me.
Well, and the
Yeah.
tin, not only that, the other sources, the tin and everything else that it also is important in bronze manufacture, not just the fucking copper, because bronze is an alloy of multiple metals, but the tin and the arsenic and other,
primarily
from
copper,
like,
tin,
yeah,
usually arsenic mixed in depending on where you got the
yeah,
metal.
and
But
the
yeah,
tins,
like if you look at the Ulabrun shipwreck, they got that tin from Afghanistan. Other places in Europe would have gotten it from like Cornwall and other sources.
yeah, Cornwall and other sources, and there was also the Nordic Bronze Age cultures who were like basically just as quote unquote advanced as the Mediterranean, like Minoan and such societies. And they traded, because we know they traded, because guess what? Amber from Scandinavia has been found in like Egyptian temples and shit. You know, and this
Well,
is
that Hallstatt graves literally
Yeah.
all over Eurasia. So
yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
yeah.
So yes, maybe Palygorskite exists in Georgia. I can't confirm that. I'm sure it does, but academic papers from 7 years before and the same goddamn year as this documentary show that no, they were getting their sources. Yeah, is this quote unquote documentary? Yeah, show they were getting their source for this pigment from Mesoamerica. I'm sorry. Deal with it, Scott Wolters, you crybaby who just can't get over the fact that you were rejected one time involving an obviously fake runestone.
Relatively little of it in Mexico. Gary,
Not according to any other archaeologist in any other academic paper that they published.
think that the Maya blue in Mexico could have been made with the Palygorskite clay in Georgia.
There are still sites in Mexico where they haven't found the actual source for the Maya blue. So that's definitely a good thing to look into.
We've got
Zane, when did that paper you showed
Maya
date
blue.
to?
Well, there was one from 2005 and one from 2012.
Okay, so they would have had access to this. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Pigment mystery, as well as star maps, both there and in Georgia.
Again, how are they star maps? How are you like what constellation? What? Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
like-
it's a
like I
star
said,
map because it looks like one to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drink.
Oh yeah, I can do that too. Oh look, it's ripples in a pond. Where's the pond this is from?
Yeah.
And those are not the only connections. It goes much deeper than that. Now check these out. This copper plate was unearthed in North Georgia.
Rogan
Think about this.
hates.
Yeah. And oh god. I'm not going to touch on this that much because you've already done where the copper comes from in your videos, Nathaniel. But the copper that the Mississippians used in Etowah came from the fucking Great Lakes. We know that. You know, and other places, but you know,
There's
this is
also
well
Copper
known.
Hill in Tennessee. There's
Yeah.
a whole like
Yeah.
set of Appalachian sources for copper as well. But
And just because you see an individual dancing a feather dance doesn't mean any kind of connection. Jesus fucking Christ.
well, also like that's Redhorn. That's
Yeah.
that is a
it's
character from
North
he's
American.
very North American.
Yeah, very North
Yeah.
American. Yeah. Yeah.
Is changes history in a profound way, and it gets ignored, swept under the rug, and people that even dare to investigate
I
it.
mean, you get ignored.
criticize. I've been through
You
that
get
myself.
ignored.
Got to figure out a way to make it stop.
Yeah, they say
Again, what did I say just a few minutes ago? He is a crybaby who can't get over the one time he was fucking criticized by the academic community.
I do need to back
Changes
up on
from
something real quick though. Redhorn, just so I'm not misunderstood on this, Redhorn is found all over North America.
Yeah.
But his story is also tied to the Hero Twins story in
Yeah.
Mesoamerica. This is a pan North American
Yeah. Yeah. It's
uh,
not. Yeah.
tradition. It is not
It's
the kind
found
of
in
thing
also
where-
the. Yeah.
if like
Yeah.
Redhorn starts showing up in Georgia and not in, Tennessee and Missouri and Illinois and all over North America, then you've got something. But Redhorn's everywhere.
Yeah. Exactly. And the Southwest. The Hero Twin story exists in the Southwest and all these other things. So it's just yeah.
at a time, and I think
Talk
that's
one
what it's
more
going to
thing.
take.
You know what? I'm not going to wait for these people to die. Sorry. I'm going to get answers. Let's go to Old Hoagie.
Someone needs to give Scott Walters a swirly.
Yeah, seriously.
Hmm.
Oh my gods.
Shut up, dude. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no. Slow, quiet, serious moment.
Yeah.
So how long
Swallow
have
the
you
sun
been
plays
studying
in the
this
background.
Maya-Georgia connection?
Well, I've been researching the Georgia-Mexico connection for about 10 years, but it was only within the last couple of years that I really stumbled on the Mayan
Wait, what was
presence
again? What are
in
your
with Florida
credentials
and
again?
Georgia.
I missed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think
did they
of
say?
Richard Thornton's research?
You know, Mr. Thornton has presented a hypothesis, and that hypothesis needs to be tested. Is
No,
the
it does.
Track Rock site a Mayan site? You know, I don't know. Could it be? Absolutely, it could be. But we're never going to know that as long as the academics are insisting that it can't be.
So instead of sitting in your chair talking about it,
Hang on. This
actually
is
getting out
so-
there doing something.
Absolutely.
This is the thing that annoyed me the most out of the entire. Okay, so I'm going to share just a few articles involving Mississippian sites,
Not gonna
and
scream.
you're going to notice a pattern. In a second, once I get here, see here, figure out here. There we go. So here's one paper that, by an archaeologist that I've met and and talked with, titled "Remote Sensing Data from Etowah Mounds: An Architecture and Recreation of Mississippian Tradition" by Adam King et al. Then if we move,
Adam's good.
yeah, he's good. Yeah. Then if we move over, another paper by Adam King titled "The Etowah Archaeo-Geophysical Survey: Creating Place and Identity Through Built Environment." Then if we come over here, we go to a paper involving Okmulgee titled "Forager Interactions on the Edge of the Early Mississippian World: Neutron Activation Analysis of Okmulgee and St. John's Pottery." So you notice there's 3 papers. This took me 5 minutes to Google. 3 papers on Mississippian sites alone, and 2 papers by the same fucking archaeologist. So you're not getting out of your chairs and actually going out and proving this stuff. Meanwhile, these archaeologists who are not proving their stuff are publishing multiple papers about the same fucking sites that they are actually
also
going out to.
Okmulgee is one of the most researched archaeological sites and best funded archaeological sites in the country.
Same with Etowah. Yeah.
Etowah is not dissimilar. They've been excavated for decades. If he's about to go start talking about Etowah, like, my impression was that he was still talking about the stacked rock whatever thing that they came from at the beginning of the episode. But if he's about to start talking about Etowah and Okmulgee, then yeah, he's just full of shit, because those are extensively and intensively excavated and researched sites.
And with archaeologists like Adam King, Dr. James Langford, multiple hell, I have a book about Mississippian archaeology, 2 books actually about Mississippian archaeology in Georgia, including Etowah here, such as Lamar Archaeology, Mississippian Chiefdoms in the Deep South, and the Coosa Chiefdom by Marvin T. Smith. Both both archaeological books talking about Mississippian sites within Georgia. One is, of course, bigger than the other, and that's Lamar Archaeology. But that's the point. Like, these are things that have been extensively studied about, these sites. And then there's Scott Walters with his little petulant child brain. It's like, they're not getting out of their chairs and actually investigating these sites. Then what do you call all the academic papers in the literal entire books?
Well, you can, in fairness, you can write academic papers all day long and not go out and excavate, but people have been excavated.
Yeah.
My buddy Derek, his field school was at Etowah.
Yeah.
They've been doing excavations at these sites for decades. The first meeting of the Southeastern Archaeological Conference was at Okmulgee.
Yeah, exactly. So
and it's just frankly insulting. It's like these people who have spent all these hours on these remote sensing surveys, on the lab work, and even these so-called chair archaeologists, they spent years getting their degrees to be able to say that they know for a certainty what they're talking about.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Or at least
And their
within
articles are all
reason.
peer reviewed.
Yeah, at least within reason. And usually, if they're not 100% sure on something within an academic paper, they will state, hey, more research needs to be conducted before we can determine whether or not this is within 100% reality. You know, we're making a postulation based off of the evidence we have, but we need more research done so that we can be 100% sure. And archaeologists have backtracked over the years. There was an archaeologist who made a hypothesis in an academic paper about Cahokia collapsing or partially collapsing as a polity due to like wide scale flooding or something like that. And then another archaeologist came out and published her research 10 years later saying, actually, I've gone back and looked at all the evidence. That's probably not the case. And you know what the archaeologist who originally published the hypothesis about the flooding did? He said, great, thank you for disproving my fucking theory. He's like, it was a great hypothesis at the time, but you have shown that I was wrong. Thank you. He didn't go, meh, they're debunking me and they're trying to, cancel me or, cover up my research. He was just
I was actually really surprised.
Yeah.
Like 2018, I saw an interview with Colin Renfrew where he had acknowledged that the Anatolian hypothesis was wrong and that Maria Gimbutas was right. Like,
yeah, exactly.
People change their minds when confronted with new data all the time.
All the time.
Even people as entrenched in their narrative as Colin Renfrew eventually acknowledged that he was wrong after 20-something years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I love about archaeological sciences that I feel like
I agree.
No, go ahead.
That's one of the things I love about archaeological science that I think people in other sciences don't really get is that we are a deductive science. We look at the evidence, then hypothesize. If we do it the other way around, we just make assumptions and then try to prove ourselves right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, it's an earthen mound.
Take a look at this. This is that mound.
It's a spiral mound, isn't it? That's without the vegetation. Well, now I can kind of see it. Can we take a closer look?
Let's go.
All right. We got mounds in Minnesota, but I haven't seen any this big. Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I see at least 1, 2,
4 or
3.
5 levels.
Even maybe a fifth one up there. This is cool as hell.
There's a site called Xochitecatl in Mexico, and it's the only other place in North America or Central America that has a spiral mound exactly like this, where you follow the spiral to the top. Not only that, it's laid out exactly like the mound site here with the spiral mound on one end and the square mound on the other. This mound, the Creek Indians said this is where they perform their snake dance. And so they marched in procession around the mound until they reached the top for their ceremony. There was also Lake Okeechobee. Now, when the Spanish came to Lake Okeechobee, they found 3 people living around that lake. The Maya Imi, the Mayaka, and the Maya Yuaki. So 3 people calling.
Okay, so 3 people calling themselves Maya. Let's go back to a couple of things. One, Maya is a modern collective term. Not something that would have been used historically by the indigenous peoples themselves.
Something that they called themselves.
And again, here we come to this source. We call the civilization Maya, although the term would not have meant anything to the Maya in fucking Guatemala. So
I'm trying to remember what it was, because I remember reading a thing that it was supposed to be meaning like people or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On themselves, Maya.
Is there also maybe a connection to Miami?
Absolutely.
This is really...
I forgot he said that.
That is... Hang
it
on.
Sounds like so it is.
Yeah.
Can someone pass the blunt, please? Because I'm not high enough for this shit.
I mean,
incredible.
I've only had limited exposure to linguistics, but as someone who has spent a lot of time with other languages, just because it sounds the same doesn't mean it is. Don't walk up to a French person and say you're excité. They're going to get the wrong idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Had no idea that there would be a
A
spiral.
little inappropriate.
We have spiral
Yeah.
mounds in Mexico. This Maya-Georgia connection is really starting to come together, and I'm feeling it.
Oh
And-
my god.
But like that's a good place to pause actually, because this goes back to the point about the Parthenon in Nashville.
Yeah.
Like I am sure that somebody from Georgia, in fact, often people from Georgia had like visited Mesoamerica. They probably did see shit like that. That doesn't make it the case that Mesoamericans migrated in mass to Georgia and built these monumental structures.
Yeah,
I'm
which
sure
is,
there is
yeah.
influence between these two groups. It's not
Yeah.
the same thing as a like full-blown diffusion of human beings from
Yeah,
one place to
exactly.
the other.
Exactly. And this is the last little part we're going to look at in this episode before I'm going to move on to a couple of other things that are involved with this episode.
Oh my god, the south side gets more sun. It's almost
Ah,
like you're playing
so
homes
here's-
around that.
So here, cranial deformation. This is so. I think
Oh,
this
you
is
mean
their
what
about
happens
to-
when you put kids in cradle boards?
Well, yeah, cranial deformation. So they're like, oh, the Maya did cranial deformation, therefore, you
So did a
know.
lot of people.
Well, that's exactly
across
what's
the
going to
world.
be my point. That was exactly going to be my point. So, do you know who else performed cranial deformation? See, let's find some paper. Well, for one thing,
Mhm.
there were people on the coast of Peru in South America who performed cranial deformation. As you can see here on this picture here. And in Europe, the Central Eurasian Empire, and cultural group, the Huns, also performed cranial fucking deformation, as you can see in this picture here. So the cranial deformation, so fucking what? Pick a culture around the world and throw a dartboard, and there's not 100% chance, but there's a very good fucking chance you're gonna find a culture that performed cranial deformation in some regard. All right. Now, with that, we're going to move away from that a second, and we're going to talk about. Well, for one thing, I want to address something. Nathaniel, did mound buildings show up randomly out of nowhere in the Mississippian period, or did they exist beforehand?
Oh, it's like a 6,000-year-old tradition minimum.
Yes, exactly. So, find here. For one thing, Poverty Point, which I've been to. I've been to in Louisiana. I know you have, Nathaniel, also.
Yeah.
It's a great place, but it's from, and it's not even the oldest in North America.
Yeah, it's south of 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
But you get to
4,000.
Watson Break. I've seen dates coming out of Watson Break that are 6,000.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's from 1700 to 1100 BCE, well before the Maya began as a culture, and well before the Maya even collapsed as a culture. And here's some better pictures of Poverty Point. Then you had the shell ring mounds on the coast of Georgia, that are almost 6,000 years old. Yeah.
Georgia, Carolina, both.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even just that. You have also Kolomoki mounds, which is from the Middle Woodland period, and the Hopewell era, which is well before the Mississippian period. The Middle Woodland period was this varies. You can find multiple different dates depending on who you ask. Some say 500 BCE, some say 300, 200. It ranges, but somewhere between 500.
It's in that
BCE,
ballpark.
Yeah, exactly. Till somewhere, and again, some people say the Middle Woodland period ended around 300 CE. Some say 500 CE at the border of the Late Woodland period. Again, it's in that ballpark.
It's later than that, dude. I'm actually working on a video about a site that I worked on that's solidly the material culture is Middle Woodland, but it's going into the 700s AD.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Exactly. But the point is, this is before the Mississippian period. And there have been entire books written about it. Like this book here by Thomas J. Buchanan, titled Kolomoki Settlement Ceremony Status in the Deep South, AD 350 to 750. This was written in 2003. 9 years before this fucking, this documentary, air quotes, came out. So they most certainly had access to this. Then you also had the leak site in Bartow County, just south of where I grew up. You know, and it's well documented, and it was a Mississippian mound site that unfortunately no longer exists because, you know, the dark ages of archaeology, bulldozing shit and everything. You know, but it's well documented.
Ooh, check that out.
Yeah.
Hang on, go back up. No, I was looking at the curvilinear. Yeah, the Swift Creek pot.
Yeah, the Swift Creek pot, which is what the Hopewellian cultures in, you know, Georgia were, you know, are known for their Cartersville check stamp and their Swift Creek pottery and things like that. And they built mounds. You know, it's just amazing how that exists. You know,
and if we want to go back to artistic design, that's a repeating geometric design versus what was in prehistoric Europe. That would be like just
and
ramshackle domestic. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was getting ahead of the game. I remember we talked about this in private.
Yes. So, but you know, and these time periods are thoroughly researched. Here's a paper by Victor D. Thompson et al. About the Sapelo Island shell rings in Georgia. You know, there's another one by Thompson D. Victor about the complexity of prehistoric hunter-gatherers in Georgia. This is actually his dissertation involving the shell mounds. There's Evaluating Mobility, Monumentality, and Feasting at the Sapelo Island Shell Ring Complexes by Victor D. Thompson and Fred T. Andrus. You know, there's another one by Carrie J. Garland et al. And you can see right here, 4,500 years ago is when these shell rings were built. Well before the Mississippian culture fucking existed. You know, late archaic villages, again, the same thing. You know, by Matthew C. Sanger and Quinn Monique Ogden. These
I'm not a big fan of Matt Sanger's work.
Oh, well, and that's fair.
But those are for very dumb, nitpicky reasons.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and again, here we go. Here's a thesis on the burials from Mound C at Okmulgee, Georgia. This is one of Scott Keith's many papers on the leak site and connecting it to the Hopewellian heartland. You know, again, here's a chapter from a book on the Middle Woodland and Early Woodland period where Scott Keith talks about the leak site, which again, if you know, we're talking about all the time about archaeologists, you know, not actually, you know, working on places according to the guys in this documentary, air quotes, yet here are multiple papers. Thomas J. Buchanan, yet another paper on Kolomoki, on and on and on. You get the point. You know, we study this. This shit is like well documented, and it's like, and we have the sites that predate the Mississippian period. It would be one thing if these mounds just appeared out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we have documentation going back well before that. Hell, there is, you know, recently. A couple years back, there was a paper talking about how mounds near Louisiana State University and they haven't confirmed this, and even in the paper they said, hey, we need to do more research before we can say for certain whether or not this is the case, but they suggested that they may be 10,000 years old, which is not
that evidence evidence didn't turn out looking all that good.
Oh, okay, really?
They still look middle archaic. They still look old as shit. But they're not. It's not as old as I think they were trying to claim it was like 10,000 years old or something like that.
Yeah, 10,000. Yeah.
That would be old.
It's still they're still fucking old.
Yeah, right. and again, and even in the paper, they weren't saying 100% that it was that. They were like, it was just what they said the evidence showed, but they're also saying more research needs to be conducted, which is what most archaeologists say, because archaeologists, unless we're, refuse to acknowledge change, which does happen, but it's very rare, we acknowledge that, like, we need to do more research before we can say anything beyond that. Now, this brings me to the final part of this video I want to address, involving Richard Thornton himself. So, Richard Thornton has, over the years, actually come up with even more batshit crazy shit involving the Mississippian mounds and other things in Georgia. and I'm not going to read these articles in length. I'm just going to go over the titles. But for one, he said, why are a complete range of Irish and Scandinavian Bronze Age petroglyphs found in northern Georgia? Irish in North America before Columbus.
Is he doing the like
Those are
Saint Brennan the
pre-check-
Navigator type shit? Or
I don't know. I gave a few of the articles to Ian to look at. Who built the ancient stone circle ovals in Georgia? And this is him. Claiming
What the hell
that
is my copy of the Voyages of Saint Brendan? That's a Christian allegory. That's not even like a real voyage.
Welsh settlers led by Prince Madoc is what he's claiming.
That's a folkloric myth.
Along with the lost tribes of Israel and Christian Roman refugees.
Oh, it's always the
I
fucking
am
lost
not
tribes
gonna
of
touch
Israel.
that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Sun Goddess and Sun Circles, the transatlantic connection, where he tries to connect it with Bronze Age Scandinavia and Ireland and things like that.
Well, look, this is always the recurrent pattern. There's this thing that's complicated and we don't understand it. Surely it must be made by someone we've heard of before.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my. Oh, hang on. One more second.
Okay.
One of my favorite ones. Your secret Sami, Finnish, and Basque ancestry.
Those are 3 separate cultural groups.
Yeah. So, Ian.
What?
Ian, explain to us why the Celts and like the Bronze Age, like Irish and Scandinavians were not in fucking Georgia.
First of all, we're covering literally thousands of years of history.
Hang on, I can tell you, as a Scandinavian, why we weren't in Georgia. It's too fucking hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look back at those petroglyphs, there's the difference between the sun wheel motif that you see all over Europe.
Yeah.
That's used for generations versus a spiral. Those are 2 different motifs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this.
All right, I'm trying to calm myself down here because I'm working myself up.
Yeah. Yeah. And for one thing, Ian, you have talked about this with me before. Explain why the term Celt has a whole ton of baggage.
With pleasure. So, linguistically, the term Celt only really appeared in popular use around the late 18th, early 19th century, along with the rise of Romanticism, especially the French Romantic movement, where they had, the phrase started coming about, nos ancêtres les Gaulois, our ancestors the Gauls, and they kind of used the Bretons as a sort of, token minority for that, where it's like, oh, look at these fun people who are the descendants of our ancestors, and the nickname for the people of Brittany were the Celt. So that came into a lot of use for writers and historians like Francois René. What's his last name? I'll think of it later. He wrote a lot of stuff. He was also an antiquities minister in France. I'll think of it later. And
we can put it in a card down at the bottom of the video.
Yeah, we'll put it. Yeah. We'll then also Sir Walter Scott uses it in a couple of his works. The list goes on. So, as interest in Celtic studies ended up riding on the back of interest in classical studies, a lot of nationalist interests arose in peoples of Celtic descent, like the Welsh, the Irish, the Scottish, the Cornish, so on and so forth. And so it's like, as time goes on and they started experiencing otherness because of the imperialist actions of the French, the English, list goes on, they started identifying themselves as a group through otherness. Now, if we're trying to reflect this Celtic identity back into antiquity, yes, we can trace individual cultures of these, but not Celts as a whole. That's kind of an academic umbrella term that really gets misconstrued by a lot of nationalist rhetoric.
Yeah. So Yeah.
So when we're talking about the pre-Celtic peoples of the Iron Age and before, they were incredibly diverse. Not all of them had the same language, not all of them had the same art. If we're looking at like even Latin art, like if you're looking at southern France, which the Romans called the Celtae, which is a name that only really did that area. They didn't have a lot of Latin art. If you're looking at Celto-Iberia, their art was unique. If you're looking at Britain, there are only like a few centers that imported Latin art, but there were no local production centers of it.
Yeah.
So this is an incredibly diverse, broadly speaking, group of people who would have viewed themselves independently of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you've got the Hellas who are all speaking the same, you know, they're all speaking ancient Greek, but they still don't see each other as peers to each other.
Yeah.
Like, and that's in a much smaller span of geography among people who are much more closely related to each other than the entirety of Europe.
Yeah. Well,
so
exactly.
It's the right track. It's the academic and nationalistic tendency to lump each other into far-reaching groups.
Yeah. So
for really convenience and no other reason.
which you know actually again connects us back to Richard Thornton, because this is a white guy claiming he's Native American while being a member of a non-federally or state recognized by anyone tribe, and he is now claiming that his people connected to his white ancestry in Europe are coming into the pre-contact Native American area of Georgia and making these petroglyphs and all kinds of things like that. And you would think in any number of books that are written about archaeology in the Southeast, including Georgia and shit, that and this one too.
I don't remember the guy's name. I knew I'd come around to it, but
yeah, well, yeah, but you would think that any of the archaeologists, or like for example, Nathaniel or myself, who work in CRM archaeology and have been in multiple different, dig sites, phase 1, phase 2s, etc., you would think that at some point we would have found anything connecting to European cultures prior to 1492, and especially when it comes to Georgia, prior to the 1540s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, because recently there's evidence of Irish settlers in the Faroese and parts of Iceland, but that's tied up with Scandinavian movements as well.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely a simple thing of one after the other. These were ongoing movements, but there's nothing I've found out about any period of time in the Americas.
Yeah, with the exception of the very brief Viking settlement of Lancel Meadows in Canada that was only a few years. But yeah, so yeah, exactly. And who was the guy that you remember the name of, Ian?
Francois René de Chateaubriand. He was a romanticist, author, and also a historian. And he was in charge of cataloging France's antiquities for the better part of the 19th century.
Exactly. So yeah, so it's just like there's no evidence of any European peoples being here in the Americas before the Viking Age, and in particularly Georgia before the 1540s. And it's also, again, it's very interesting that first in 2012, this Richard Thornton guy was claiming that it was Mayans, and now he's gone swan dove headfirst deep into fucking the mound builder myth from the fucking 1800s and early 20th century, where it's like it was white people. Like first you were like, okay, sure, the Mayans weren't in Georgia, but at least you were pointing to a Native American culture. Now you've given up and you're full stop, and pointing at the white European cultures. So
this is kind of a tangent, but have you ever seen the Abraham Lincoln speech where he talks about the giants who built the mounds?
Yeah, exactly. I've had people show me like yellow journalism articles from the 1880s talking about how they found giants at the Etowah Mounds, but they like say they're like, oh, they were 7 or 8 feet tall, and I'm just looking at that. I'm like, okay, so chances are it was just disarticulation from decomposition and shit like that, But it's like, but I've had to explain to them, it's like, it's called yellow journalism. It's back then you were allowed to make up shit as you went for as long as it made money.
There was a paper that Alois Hrdlicka did, like the early bioanthropologist, where he's investigating claims of giants.
Yeah.
And his conclusions are, this falls into 3 categories, really. It's deliberate deception of charlatans.
Yeah.
What you're saying, like the not disarticulation, but
So
it's called subsidence when bodies like
my bad,
spread out from each other. It's just a technical term, but settling it works. Technically it's called the body subsides and material kind of spreads out, so they end up looking taller. Or it was animals that were being misidentified as humans by people who didn't know better.
Yeah, like the elephants and cyclopses.
Yeah, kind of thing. Or like bison, like you see a bison femur, and you have no training in osteology.
Yeah.
Conclusions get jumped to.
Yeah, which actually, that's also connected to, I had somebody tell me one time that Buffalo Bill in his autobiography claimed that Pawnee, members of the Pawnee Nation showed him and the doctor and his cavalry regiment these giant femurs, and they said that, like, oh, these were giants who, supposedly said they were sort of giants that once walked the earth or some shit like that. And I did double check that. He does say that in the autobiography. That being said, Buffalo Bill was notorious for making shit up as he went. He's known for a circus where he lied about the West. 2, he's saying this in his autobiography with nobody to confirm these fucking claims. 3, going back to what Nathaniel was saying, who's to say this wasn't like a mammoth femur? Not a mammoth femur. Well, yeah, a mammoth femur, but who's to say it wasn't like, a bison femur or any number of things like that? It's just like, yeah. So
what is it that P.T. Barnum was known for saying? A sucker is born every minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, P.T. Barnum, the guy who, after the Cardiff Giant was disproven, had a couple more commissioned, and then he advertised them as the real giants so that he could make money off it. Yeah. So that's the thing. So that, and this may not be the last time I do a video on Scott Wolters, or it may not be the last time Nathaniel does. But the thing is, Scott Wolters is a fucking idiot. He's a liar. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And the people he talks to are liars and charlatans too. Richard Thornton, for example, again, is lying about his heritage, and he's claiming to be an expert in a field that he doesn't have a fucking degree in. He's an architect while claiming to be an expert in archaeology and the history of Georgia. And he's just making shit up as he goes. He's not published in any way. He's self-published on this website you see here on the screen. Like, it's nothing in this episode was correct. Sorry.
Well, it really irked me that he backed up nothing with citations or sources or anything.
Yeah.
The only time he cited articles is when he was trying to be like, look at these idiots.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Jesus. And unfortunately, this guy, he's still around. Richard Thornton still is plaguing archaeologists. I was a field school that I volunteered at a few years back when I was still in my undergrad, is an archaeological site in western North Carolina, the Berry site, which is is a fort that was built in one of the Spanish explorations by Juan Pardo, Fort San Juan. And he was claiming that it wasn't the Spanish who built it, that archaeologists were lying that it was the Spanish who built it, that it was European, air quotes, but it wasn't Spanish, and archaeologists needed to stop lying about it being Spanish. Yeah. And it's just like, why? Why would we lie about that? It's like...
I have no words.
I also don't understand why the Smithsonian wants to hide the red-haired giants. Like, to what end? I can never get a reasonable explanation for why like that would be beneficial to anyone. If anyone has an actual answer for that question, drop that in the comments. I want to know.
Please. Please. Because that's the thing, and it's, I think one of the most hilarious things to me is the fact that Scott Wolters and Thornton were saying this shit when there were papers published the same fucking year they were making this episode that were backing up the claims of the archaeologists and were contradicting their claims. Yet they claimed that archaeologists had no interest in exploring these sites. So.
One thing that we do need to clarify though, before we, get too sanctimonious about this, is the issue is not that these people don't have degrees or pedigree. There are plenty of really good avocational researchers who do really good work. Ancient Americas is one of them. He is not an archaeologist. He just does excellent research and synthesis and puts together this material.
And he actually cites his sources.
And he has good sources and research, and he has really great observations to make about this information. Kind of in the same vein is Stefan Milo also. I know he has some education and training. I don't think he does archaeology professionally. Also does really, really excellent work putting together this information and doing good research. Having the degree or the professional position is not what it's not the problem with these people. The problem is they think they know better than the people who spend 40 plus hours a week working on this exclusively.
Yeah. Exactly. Mini Minuteman's another good one. Mini Minuteman on YouTube's another good example.
Yeah, Milo Rossi's awesome. Love that kid.
It's not about degrees or anything. It's about doing honest research and citing your sources in a way that people can retrace your steps.
And that's the big issue. And again, much of I keep coming back to this, but it's really much of the issue. Much of the issue with Scott Wolters is he got rejected one time by the academic community, and then he's made that into his entire goddamn personality. He refuses to see anything else because he was rejected at the proverbial prom one goddamn time, and now because he got rejected that one time, everyone and their mother is his fucking enemy within this field. And it's again, you sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you make a claim that is proven false. You roll with the punches and move the fuck on. That's how academia works. If you don't like it, then maybe you shouldn't have gotten into fucking academia, you fucking whiny crybaby.
It's rewarding, but it's brutal.
Exactly. All right, so with that, I think we've pretty thoroughly, me for the first time and Nathaniel for the, me and Ian for the first time and Nathaniel for the third time or something, have shown that Scott Wolters is full of shit. The people he talks to are full of shit, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and neither do they. Thank you, Nathaniel and Ian, for coming on. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
As infuriating as this was, I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always a good time. I would absolutely do this again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I don't know if it's still happening, but Graham Hancock has plans to make a season 2 of fucking Ancient Apocalypse.
Jesus, squirrel fucker, God. Okay, we could make that a bi-weekly thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't handle more than maybe a half episode a week, please.
Oh God. No, that one I would legitimately be drinking. I'd probably get a bottle of whiskey and be like, all right, time to
warn me. I'll go grab my cider. Seriously.
No, seriously, we could do a thing where we just back and forth on each channel, do the same shit.
Yeah.
It's just but just watch the episode roll through and call pause.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if that's happening. So we'll see if that happens. That will be the plan. So,
they are making a second season, but he got kicked out of North America.
Yeah.
The tribes are he is not allowed to film at. I think he wanted to do Chaco.
Yeah, he wanted to
go fuck around at Chaco, and they were absolutely not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
did you hear what the archaeologists they interviewed at Malta? They were just scathing.
Oh yeah, they were pissed.
Yeah, they were pissed. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. All right. Well, again, thank y'all for coming on, and we're going to end this video before our brain cells explode trying to think any more about fucking Scott Walters.
Oh God.
But yeah.
And my brain needs to cool down. I'm steaming out the ears here.
Yeah.